This priest is highly regarded by all of his parishioners. However, one day he learns that his home could be taken away from him. In fact, this was exactly what was going to happen if he didn't take action right away. He decided to give his house to a family who had nowhere else to go, and so he did just that. But then he took it a step further. Let's see how far he went. So he went to check in on him and asked him why he hadn't left yet. That's when he learned something shocking. He learned that this man had brought his entire family into the church. There were 2 kids and a wife involved. And it turned out they had been living in the church without the priest's knowledge. As soon as they moved into his house, they began fixing it up. In fact, he gave them enough money for them to buy furniture and make the house feel like a real home. It's unclear how long they stayed in the priest's house, but eventually they were able to get back on their feet. It's likely that they were able to find work and become financially independent. That way they wouldn't be a burden to the priest anymore. He was hoping that they would leave once they were back on their feet, but once again that wasn't the case. They cleaned it, painted it, and made it their own. They had secretly moved in the middle of the night. The priest was touched by their gesture, but he refused to accept the gift. The family was grateful for the priest's help and promised to never forget what he had done for them. They told him that they had heard about his story and wanted to make a documentary about him. The priest was hesitant at first, but eventually agreed. He told them that he had given them the house to use while they needed it, and that it was theirs, as long as they paid the bills and took care of it. People from all over the country reached out to him to express their gratitude and support. Many people also donated money to the church so that the priest could continue his good work. Instead, the head of the family told him that they wanted to pay him back, or watch what happens to a priest who prays for 5 minutes. He said that everyone should be willing to lend a helping hand to those who are less fortunate. They said that they wanted to do something special for him, but the priest told them that there was no need for that. He said that it had been his pleasure to help them out, and that they shouldn't worry about paying him back. They continued to stay in touch with the priest and often visited him at the church. They also made sure to pay their respects to him on a yearly basis, and how he couldn't believe that they would offer him the house after everything he had done for them. He said that he had simply done what he felt was right and that he didn't expect anything in return. They said that they wanted to give him the house. The priest was shocked. He couldn't believe that they would offer him the house after everything he had done for them. Helping others is always a good idea, even if you don't know them. You never know when they might need your help, and you could end up making a lifelong friend in the process. He said that they should keep the house since they had already put so much work into it. One day, a man came to Father John's church. A few days later, the family told him that they had a surprise for him. When he opened the door, he was shocked to see that they had decorated the whole house. It looked beautiful with balloons, streamers, and banners everywhere. It must have taken them a long time to plan and prepare. This man was desperate and explained to the priest that he had to leave his country because his life was in danger. Then the children approached him and gave him a handmade card. The priest opened it and read, "Thank you for everything." It made him feel very grateful for what he had done, but he still didn't understand why they were doing this. After all, it wasn't his responsibility to take care of this refugee, but he felt sorry for him and didn't want him to sleep out on the street. This was quite shocking to the priest, but he couldn't do anything to help him. So he invited him to stay at the church residence until he figured out what to do next. He probably thought that it was better than them sleeping out on the street, even though it wasn't ideal. It was the rainy season, and the roof of the church was leaking. It made no sense for them to continue staying there. So the priest offered them a much better place, invited them to move into his house and live there while they figured things out. But little did he know, this was going to become their new home for the time being. The priest probably thought that it would only be a few days before he found another solution, but it ended up being much longer than that. This man stayed in the church residence for months, and no one knows what they would have done if the priest had unstepped in and helped them. However, after a while, the priest noticed that the man wasn't leaving. The priest was shocked, but he still offered them food and water. He also let them stay in his church residence. They lived in the church for a few weeks, but then the rain started coming. The priest probably thought that he could take care of them until they found somewhere else to go. But it ended up being much more than that. The priest continued to help them out and even gave them money. It turned out that this family needed much more help than the priest had anticipated. The priest probably thought that they were finally going to leave, but he was wrong. He probably thought that they would leave after that conversation, but once again, he was wrong. But the priest was still confused. He didn't understand why they were doing this. That's when the family told him that they wanted to give him a gift. But the head of the family insisted, saying that it was the least they could do to thank him for saving their lives. He said that if they were ever in trouble, they could always count on him, and that he would be there to help them. After some time passed, the priest received a visit from a film crew. The priest talked about how he had been moved by the family's gratitude. The priest also talked about the importance of helping those in need, and said that everyone should be willing to lend a helping hand to those who are less fortunate. The documentary was a huge success, and the priest became a local hero. As for the family, they were able to rebuild their lives thanks to the priest's help, and they never forgot what he had done for them. So what did we learn from this story? Now check out what happens to a priest who saves a kitten.